You know, they asked me to give uh, research on oil and gas, but we had done a very systematic compilation of facts about oil and gas in Acholi in 2014 when I was chair of the Acholi Technical Working Committee on Oil and Gas. And I had nine other members, including Honorable Dongautor. Uh, and we moved to Entebbe, we moved to Kampala, we moved to Bunyoro, we moved to Nebi, we moved to West Nile, we moved within, and in the end, we had a clear compilation of the oil situation. First, that more than 50%, in fact, more than 60% of the crude oil find that we talk about in Uganda. You remember the crude oil levels was stuck at about 3.5 billion barrels for some time. Then it jumped suddenly. There are three big oil fields in Acholi. Liech is the largest. Joby and Joby East, when Total took over, they did horizontal drilling and they found that it is actually one oil field. That's why they don't talk about the two separately, they just pick one name and use. Now, is where you get the largest amount of fuel gas. Uh, and when we presented our report, the biggest concern that came out were three. One, that there seems to be some denial of the fact that most of the oil is in Acholi. Two, when you look, you don't see oil infrastructure. And it is partly explained by how our oil fields are. In Joby, because the large oil fields are connected, you can have only one point of extracting oil, and you'll still get a lot of oil. So it is not like small pockets of oil. And therefore, and because they are in the in the national park, government also wants to take advantage of that because people were not displaced in the process. So they did a lot of things quiet. But our biggest concern, and me in particular, is that that misrepresentation has implications. When oil starts flowing out of Acholi, government can claim that this oil is not from Acholi. And so the royalty that should come to Acholi will not be there. And secondly, the law on royalty is very bad. You cannot say that royalty will be given to Noya and Noya will receive an amount equivalent to its unconditional grant. Unconditional grant of Noya district is like 4 billion shillings. The royalty from Noya oil could be $100 million a year. What happens? And when the issue of oil and Acholi started, there was no Noya district, there was no, so it was an Acholi thing. And so we want to find a way of ensuring that technically the benefit of oil is not restricted by the definition of a district, which excludes the rest of Acholi, and Noya even doesn't get the full benefit, and would rather take charge of that oil and use it, particularly for education and agriculture. If Acholi, you see, why Acholi used to be so strong was because of education. We are burying Dr. Martin Alike. He was the first Ugandan to become a dental surgeon. Dr. K went to Brazil. Was the first Ugandan to get a PhD in mathematics. The late Professor Donga He was the second Ugandan surgeon and the first African dean of the School of Medicine. Professor J.J. Oloya was the first African dean of Faculty of Agriculture. That is what made Acholi powerful. It's not numbers. We were not many, but we were strong in our homes because there was enough food, there was enough income to educate the children, and people took education very seriously and made the best use of it. So if this oil can help us to support our children go to school and succeed, we don't, nothing bigger can help actually more than that. I would have to, for example, it will depend on the level of extraction from nowhere. And by the way, like I said there, Total never bought any oil field in Bunyoro. So when they talk of Tilenga, it is the oil fields in Acholi. Sinuk bought oil fields in Bunyoro. Total bought oil fields in Acholi. And it is the same oil that they are building the pipeline to take to Tanzania. So by the time we start extracting oil, I don't know what the price of oil will be. And unfortunately, in the production sharing agreement, there are difficult provisions because these companies have to take their money. And some of them have recorded very ridiculous, amounts as costs. They have to remove that cost and leave some for government. But royalty is paid on the amount of oil in terms of barrels. So that is the beauty of royalty, and that is why we must make sure that that royalty will serve Acholi, and that we can trace. Right now, you cannot trace how much oil will be moving from Acholi across the Nile because there are no external meters where you see like they used to do with electricity or water and come and read the meter and say you have consumed so much. And they don't even, we have to have a mechanism of access to that information and to ensure that the information that you are given is actually correct information. Because if they can even deny the oil being in Acholi, how about denying us the revenue?
Yes. Honorable, is there a remedy about this transparency issue?
It's just the only answer is open talk, straight talk. We must talk to government. I'm glad that General Salim Saleh understands this. That is why he has committed to this. Because one time there were some exchange with him, between him and somebody, and he sent me the communication. And he said, Acholis have been shortchanged on two things, cattle and oil. And he said the president has realized this and corrective measures is being taken, even if it seems slow, but corrective measures is being taken. And maybe that is why you see a old minister and deputy minister and all stuff coming. That means they are opening up to talking with us. And in the end, we can then end up in a situation where dialogue generates for us acceptable agreements. And then we can build on from. These are processes. They will take a long time, but these are processes. We just have to keep it. Actually, the issue of land, we were sharing with one or two people, including the mayor of Kulu City. You see, I normally see the issue of land differently. My position has been that the land laws in Uganda is very bad. It is about ownership. and not use. You own it, but government must have a right to say use it. And if you can't use it, you rent to somebody who can use it and pay you. In Denmark, there, to be a farmer, you must qualify. You must have a certificate. Even if you own as big land as one, in Denmark you will not farm unless you are a qualified farmer. And many landowners lease out their land to people who will farm properly. So in Acholi, this thing about ownership is a very deadly thing. Because if you get clan land under Latigo, who is powerful and is feared, when Latigo goes, the family members, the young boys, they will kill each other over the same piece of land. So looking ahead, this emphasis on ownership and inciting on protection will create a terrible risk for us. If the issue of minerals and land is arising, give me specific record data. That I went to Puron, they want to start this mine, and such a family was disfranchised. It is easy to learn from there what is wrong and to argue your case with evidence. But most of this you hear in meetings. This is political talk. It doesn't help actually.